Today's AskReddit post. What's the craziest story you've heard of a couple breaking up? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. Two of my old high school friends grew up and got married. Both are women. Turns out one was verbally and/or physically abusing the other, and the victim divorced her and married her abuser's father. They're still together. I found this out on Facebook. So she effectively became her abuser's stepmother and could potentially disinherit her? That's like a pawn becoming queen. The real queen's gambit. Heard this one from my old hairstylist. She had a female friend who was dating this guy who had a pet pig. It was huge, like a full-grown pig. The pig hated the woman and pushed her out of bed to take her place next to her boyfriend. One day, she had enough and told him it is the pig or me. He told her that the pig was there first, so he dumped her and stayed with the pig. Man, that must have been a blow to her self-esteem. That's hilarious. Sounds like a Borat scene. Couple had been dating since middle school. Stereotypical teen sweethearts, everyone thought they'd get married. One day she isn't at school and he isn't doing great. She tried to kill herself the night before, and he wouldn't say anything about it. It was odd, since she had no history of depression and was an all-around happy person. She finally starts talking to people, and what happened gets out. Her boyfriend had been ducking her mom from the beginning. The whole relationship destroyed her parents' marriage. Dude ended up having to go to a different school over the drama and hate he got. Wait. He was having intercourse with an adult woman since middle school. She needs to be on a list. A truck driver gets married. He and the wife buy a nice house. He's on the road paying for it. One day he comes home, and the wife is gone, and 6 months of bills and a foreclosure notice is on the table. For 6 months she took every dollar sign he made and kept it for herself until she eventually split with all his money. Newly married woman, a teacher at a local school, cheated on her husband, also a teacher at the same school, with the principal. They got caught in the act on school property. Both their careers ruined, and probably ruined the husband's life. Husband was eating breakfast when he noticed a new tattoo on his wife's wrist. It was the name of her new boyfriend. She also would drive down toll roads in his car without paying. When the bills came in, she threw them away. He was on the hook for thousands of dollars when he figured it out. That's rather bold. Probably sans serif too. The pretty girl in my class got married and had a kid with a decent guy. She was cheating on him with another local dude. Married dude found out and went to confronted the other guy. Other guy shot at him, hit him in the back. Married guy escapes but dies on the side of a road from gunshot. Shooter claimed self-defense and got off. Victim's family told wife to get out of town or she would get wasted. She took the kid and left town with the guy. Feel bad for the kid living with their dad's killer. Far as I know, the wife has never returned. I suddenly got so sad for the father who did nothing and was robbed of a lifetime with his kid. In such a tragic way too. I hope that kid is in therapy and knows he deserves better than his current parents. This one couple I know would purposely break up in public and then make each other jealous by flirting with strangers before they eventually get back together. Like they would just ego trip on getting attention from another person before deciding they were too afraid to lose the other. It was kind of fun to see which one of them would get more jealous of the other. Although whenever the guy was winning, she would be a scary level of pissed. Sounds like they both were introduced to lead paint at a young age. I had an old coworker who was almost retired and did one of those DNA kits with her husband. He was an M&A consultant who traveled for work for at least 2 decades. They found out that he had fathered 3 kids that were now adults. Who knows how many more. She divorced him after 42 years of marriage. I remember her crying in the office very vividly. Those DNA tests are wild. Man. I was adopted and found out my dad was a traveling gun salesman who seduced my mother, who was a recent college grad who was working the front desk at the counter of a hotel he was staying at. He was apparently quite the ladies' man, according to her, and the one half brother I found so far who knew him. I'm wondering how many more there are. Honestly, I've only hit up one of the DNA testing companies and I'll be hitting the others this year. Not that crazy, but just kinda funny. My coworker had anal intercourse with her longtime boyfriend for the first time, and then afterwards he always wanted to give her anal. To the point they actually split, because they would get into an argument when he'd ask, and then he'd pout when they just had regular intercourse. He's such as pain in the ass. A friend had a long-term relationship, but was cheating on her with intercourse worker. Well, during one of these encounters, he lied about wearing a condom with the intercourse worker, and she was pissed. Since he Venmo'd her the money for the transaction, she found out who his GF was, and told her everything that happened. You know, Jerry Springer was a politician, until he visited a hooker, and paid her with a check. People are so ducking stupid. My ex used to use his debit card at brothels. Not the sharpest tool in the shed. Veteran marries a woman. Proceeds to let his wife use his GI Bill to get her masters. Once she completes her masters she leaves him. A tale as old as time. I'm not the only one who paid for the ex-wife's degree. Years ago I was waiting for a streetcar at night and a couple came out of a restaurant across the street screaming at each other. They were in the act of breaking up in that moment. I just sat there watching. I couldn't catch it all, but as he walked away from her she screamed at him, "I hope you get AIDS." Without missing a beat he turned and yelled back, "Bitch, I already gave you that poop." She started sobbing, and he had a big dumb grin on his face as he walked away. What a cruel thing to say to one another. Asshole on a date told me he convinced a bunch of friends to gaslight a loving couple they were cheating on each other, and it took them 3 years instead of 1 BC. They kept getting back together, and he was glad BC they really loved each other. I can't think of how ducked up that is, and wish people like that would poof out of existence. That's like the opposite of much ado about nothing. Friend's boyfriend was building a house. He moves in with her during construction. The plan is she will move in with him when house is ready. He asks her input on architecture details, etc. Moving day arrives. They're all set to move in. She goes to work with the movers coming that day, comes back and the movers have only taken his stuff and not hers. She calls him in confusion and that is the first time he tells her he's having doubts and doesn't want to move in together. She's completely in shock and crying. He doesn't even have the balls to break up with her. Just moves out and then never calls her again, and she's like, well, I guess we are over now. Could not have been done in a more chicken poop way. Fast forward, she's very happily single. Wow, what a user. Idiot X is seeing 2 girls, A and B, simultaneously. He married girl A while still seeing girl B. Who knows, X is actually marrying girl A. Marriage lasted 1.5 years. Ends because girl A found out about girl B. X divorces girl A and marries girl B. Another 1.5 years passes. X cheats on current wife, girl B, with former wife, girl A. They go to an hotel on a weekend, leave the hotel, and get hit by a truck right outside of it. Girl A and X end up in the hospital in bad, but not life-threatening condition. A friend of X is contacted by the hospital because the nurse on shift knew them both. He is told X and *his wife were in an accident. Nurse missed the former part***. Friend of X calls current wife's mom to tell her daughter was in an accident with his husband. Daughter, girl B, is right there with her mom. Hilarity does not ensues. Second divorce. Idiot X remains an idiot to this very day. Well, this happened to me. My ex, I guess, was seeing another girl behind my back, but me and him lived together. Guess she wanted him to leave me so they could actually be together. Well, instead of just breaking up with me, we go out to a bar one night and he roughes me. While we are there I got kicked out. When I started walking funny, we made it to a gas station and I collapsed. He called 911 and put a weed pipe in my purse. I got arrested for public intox after waking up from a coma caused by being roughed and possession of a paraphernalia for the pipe. Did a couple weeks in jail. He moved in with that other girl and a week or 2 later collapsed on the floor and died. His liver and kidneys were pooped from drinking. He was 29. I got out of jail the day he died. That was the craziest breakup I've ever had or ever heard of, lol. Fella I worked with was the South American manager for our outfit. We started at the company the same day. He would spend quite a bit of time traveling, and my wife and I would look after his wife and young daughter. He decided to leave the company and move to Chile. Told his wife to sell the house and come to Chile with their daughter Anne. Of course, the money for the house. After she moved into a rental at Santiago, he took the check for the house and handed her a plane ticket back to the States. See ya. Holy crap. What happened to her? Arrested for murder, I assume. A man's wife was having an affair. He found out when they went to a party and she went up to her boyfriend and started kissing him in front of everyone. In certain places, a huge fight, which may or may not have been physical, would occur. What was the outcome when that happened at the time? I wasn't present to witness it firsthand, but they divorced and he fell into a deep depression. Had one of our managers at work send a company-wide email when he quit, citing a coworker that his wife had cheated on him with. We are talking multi-thousands of employees. Was awkward to say the least. Dude was 22. Girl was 19. Guy lived in Seattle. Girl lived in Mississippi. They met online and fell in love. Guy would fly down every month or two to take her out and spend time with her and her family. He would bring her family gifts every visit. Her family is absolutely adored Guy, hoping he'd marry their daughter. One of the cutest and most perfect couples ever. Just a romance out of a Disney movie. Almost 2 years later, Guy decides it's time. Packs his bags and drives across the country to move closer to her. They were both super excited. She was his whole world and his future. Less than a week after moving, girl cheated on and left Guy for someone with a perm and Harry Potter glasses. Guy drowned himself in alcohol and ended up taking his own life a few months later. He was my best friend. He didn't deserve that. Just a wild situation to break up in. I'm so sorry. He didn't deserve that. I don't know if they broke up, but this was how someone found out her pilot husband was cheating on her. When a family in Canada adds a child, they receive monthly tax benefit. It's a monthly payment dependent on your income, but for a while there was one that wasn't income tested. It was universal. Mrs. Pilot got a higher than normal check, so she called our revenue agency to check the crap. They said it was for baby girl, Pilot, born date. What happened was her husband had a kid with someone else. Other woman gives the baby Pilot's last name and lists him as the father, and the payment accidentally gets added to the wrong file. Bangkok, a jealous Thai wife cut off her husband's penis in Nakhon Ratchasima, in northeastern Thailand, tied it to a helium-filled balloon and let it fly off. I assume they broke up. We had neighbors where the wife and husband switched partners with another couple, permanently not as swingers. We also know a couple that got married out of college, came out as gay, broke up but are still friends. The saddest one is a couple that dated and lived together for a decade, got engaged, and when the bride-to-be brought home her wedding dress, the groom called it off. Turns out he was cheating on her, moved in with a paramour. It didn't work out, and he came crawling back, but she understandably refused. It's even more sad in that there's rumors she's now a cougar getting plenty of young man ass, and every time we see him, he's courting a different MILF. My ex-wife's aunt and uncle did that with the neighbors. All four stayed friends for the rest of their lives. Dude I knew in high school was dating some chick. She didn't seem his type, but whatever, I'm not gonna judge. One day, he's driving her home after a bunch of us hung out at the local coffee shop. She lived pretty far out in the country, so it was a fairly long drive. 45 minutes or so if memory serves. He has the radio cranked right up, to the point they can't even speak. After about 15 minutes of driving like this, she turns the radio down and asks, "What are you thinking about?" To which he replies, "Just trying to figure out how to break up with you," and then proceeds to turn the music way back up and keep driving for 30 more minutes. I can't even imagine the awkwardness. It's wedding day. Big reception with all the families and friends before hitting the city hall and the church later. The groom makes a speech. Not the one you'd expect. He exposes the bride for cheating on him all along with the best man. Best friend of the groom till then. Tells everybody the wedding is off and she can go to hell. Sounds like a movie. It happened for real for the brother of a friend. It's more dramatic than funny. The brother took years to recover from depression after that. Old boyfriend. The girl before me was mad at him. One day when he was working she took everything out of his apartment. I mean the light bulbs, cutlery, paper towels, toilet paper, sheets, towels, food. Emptied it out. He has that wandering penis disease. The story still makes me chuckle when I picture what his face must have looked like when he opened his apartment door. I heard about this dude who got his Lego set smashed by his girlfriend when he broke up with her. She must have had some attachment issues because she just couldn't let go. More attachment issues than two 1x1 pieces stuck together. A boyfriend and girlfriend were having an argument while out at dinner. The dude ends up hocking a loogie on her face. She proceeded to storm out. Hocking a loogie, why did I understand the meaning of these words despite never seeing them before? Are you not from the US? It's a very common idiom. After I broke up with my ex that I dated from 18 to 22, he proceeded to slash my tires and pour water into my gas tank. And then after I started dating someone new a few months later, he slashed his tires too and then would call me from different numbers pretending to be someone else trying to warn me of my new boyfriend while using voice changing software. I broke up with a girl in middle school when she told me she was a witch and put a love spell on me. Maybe telling me broke the spell. Rule #1, you do not talk about witch club. My friend and his longtime GF broke up and he cheated. She wanted to take a break for mental health reason. He was okay and understood. However, their idea of a break was different. She thought they were still together and he thought they weren't until she recovered. She caught him with another woman who he'd known for years at a restaurant catching up. She was not happy and claimed he was cheating on her. He didn't have intercourse with her or anything beyond a dinner and also didn't have plans on going any further. They broke up after 4 years due to a misunderstanding of what a break meant. Ouch. Ross. I was a realtor back when you could get a mortgage just for being alive. An army private and his new wife were shopping for a home. He was about to be deployed and wanted her settled. Her sister was going to live with her while he was gone. Well, they picked the most expensive place they could get. He went off to his deployment and the new wife and sister-in-law took every dime he made. Never paid a single bill. When the house was repossessed they just left. The poor guy was devastated. I was living with my ex in his Mormon's family house for the winter after our seasonal jobs in Alaska. While we built out a van together that was in his name. My money went into the build. Lol. We just got a puppy and then in March of 2020 the pandemic hit and he said he was going back to Alaska alone. Rented a U-Haul. Attached my poopty temporary car to it and drove me to a city I had never been to where I knew one person and dropped me off. Got to keep the dog though. Sounds like a win to me. I was dating my manager for a couple months when one day I had pulled up to work and he's just standing in the parking lot and told me he'd been fired. I went in and the restaurant owner pulls me into the office and tells me he had embezzled $30,000 within the last 6 months. I was shocked and didn't believe it. I almost quit out of solidarity and defended him repeatedly for over a month. Come to find out he had been gaslighting me the whole time. I felt like such a fool. My friend has a type, and this new guy came on the scene who exemplified her type to a T. She just happened to be his type as well. Both of them are very charismatic, funny, and attractive. I had been separately talking them up to each other, and they ended up meeting when I wasn't around. I felt somewhat responsible for them getting together as fast as they did, but there's no way they wouldn't have found each other in any case. Anyway, they were getting serious, and she gave him a key to her place. One drunken night she did a poopty thing and ducked her boss, and of course the boyfriend walked in on them. He turned around without a word went back downstairs and got a bag of trash off the curb. Then came back upstairs and dumped it all over them while they were still naked in bed. It was in a bougie neighborhood and someone threw out a bottle of fancy perfume. And after the mess was cleaned up, her room smelled fantastic for a long time. The perfume was really the cherry on top. Wrapped the story up in a neat bow. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.